Hello everyone and welcome to Coding Orbit. In this video, I will show you how to implement a banner ad, inline banner ad, and interstitial ad, as well as a rewarded video ad. I'm not sure you can hear him, but he's talking. Okay, so let's get started. So I have created the skeleton project for this tutorial. Currently we have text here, ad will be placed here. This will be replaced by a banner ad, then we have show interstitial ad, and then show rewarded video ad, and then we will implement an inline banner ad inside this list view. This is a list view builder. It has list style, an icon, and text here. So first things first, we need to add a library to our project. So let's go to pub.dev and inside here search for Google mobile ads and then click the first one and then go to installing and copy the dependency and go to Android Studio again, go to pubspec.yaml and add the dependency inside the dependencies here. Click pub.get and now close pubspec.yaml and wait for it to finish. Okay. So second thing we need to do is we need to go to this link. I will keep this link in the description box and we need to scroll a little bit. Then we need to add this metadata inside our manifest file for Android. So let's go to Android and open this app, open src, open the main and open Android manifest and add it down here. Now we need to replace this value with a real value, but because we are testing the ads now, we wouldn't put a real value, we would put a sample value. So we will copy this value from here also. We will copy the sample ID and paste it here. So after we do that, we need to go and do the same step for iOS. So click on iOS here and copy this, or you can click from here to copy. So we will go to the iOS folder, expand it, expand the runner, and then open info.plist and add this. Now we need also to replace this value. So let's go to the Android again and copy it from here and paste it here. Now we will continue implementing the ads. So let's start implementing our apps. First thing I want to do is we need to initialize the library. We have to say mobile ads.instance.initialize, and after that we need to specify maximum amount of attempts. So we have to make a constant int max attempts is equal to 3. Now inside the state class we will create our ads. First let's create a late banner ad and let's call it static ad, and then create also a late banner ad and this one inline ad, and let's create a function to initialize these two. So first let's create a void load static banner ad. Inside the function we would say static ad is equal to banner ad. Inside here we need to specify a couple of things. First we have to specify ad unit ID, and since we are using test ad we have to say banner ad dot test unit ads, and we have to specify a size. So we say add size dot banner, and then we have to specify a request. So the request we have to specify an add request. So let's create an add request above. So we create it for all our ads. So inside here I would say static const add request and call it request is equal to add request. Add request. Okay. Inside the add request, we can specify something like keyword. Keywords actually are what are the user doing here. So you can specify a list of strings inside here, and then you can specify a content URL. If you have a website or something for your app, you can specify the URL so Google and ads would know what your app is all about. And finally, you can specify non-personalized ad. You can specify this to true or false. It's basically personalize it for the user or not. So we can say, for example, false or true here, and don't forget a semicolon here. And all of these are non-required. You can comment them, and we have many properties inside here also. So let's give our banner ad a request here. So we would use this request, and then finally we have to specify a listener, and we would say banner add listener. Inside here we have on ad loaded, and this takes an ad. And inside here, what we need to do is we need to set the state. And let me just create a bool and say static add loaded is equal to false. And I will create another bool for this one also and call it inline add loaded. So inside the unloaded add here, we need to say static add loaded is equal to true, and then we would have on failed also. On add failed, this takes an add and it takes an error as well. So here we can say add.dispose, and then we can, for example, print the error message we are having. We can say add failed to load error dot message and close this. And down here I'm having an error, I forgot a semicolon here. Okay, so after that we say static add dot load, and that's it. That's how we load a banner ad. So let's create another function. So we load the inline banner ad. So I will copy this and paste it down here. And instead of saying load static banner ad, I would say load inline banner ad and change this to inline ad and change this to inline ad. And instead here, let's change this as well, inline ad loaded. So now let's implement this in our widget. First, I have a single child scroll view, then inside it I have a column, and the first widget of the column is the container, and I'm saying text ad will be placed here. So I need to change this text to an add widget. Add widget. Inside here we can specify the ad. So this ad would be the static ad, and then we have to specify a width if we want to. So the width would be static add dot size dot width dot to double, and the height as well, static add dot size dot height dot to double. And let's also implement the inline add. So here I have two buttons. We'll implement it in the while, and then we have a list view builder. Inside the list view we have a list tile returning a text and an icon. So first I want to check something. What I want to check if inline add loaded and let's say index is equal, for example, to 5. And inside here what we need to do, okay, we need to have 2 equals. Okay, so inside here what we need to do actually is we need to return an add widget. But if we return an add widget here and the index is equal to 5, so the index 5 will never appear. So here we will return a column Inside the column we'll have children, and inside the children I will copy the above container so we don't write it twice. Okay, so inside the container, instead of add widget static add this time, what we will use is inline add, and change this as well. Okay, we can, if we want to, we can not specify alignment. And after the container, we have to return also the list style. But before we return a list style, let's add a size box as well, and give it a height of maybe 20, and add the list style. Okay, so, and don't forget a semicolon here, and else here, and put this inside the else. Okay, now if we run it, it will show up, but before we run it, let's add another if here for static add loaded. If static add loaded, we will have this container. So if we run our application now, hopefully everything will work fine. And it doesn't. Our app doesn't work. So you may wonder why, because we forgot to call these functions before in the init state. So let's call them load static banner add and load inline banner add as well. Now rerun our application and let's see if it works. Hopefully. Okay, they do. So now our static banner ad appears at the top and the inline banner ad appear as well. So, but as you can see, this space doesn't match with this space. So let's get rid of the size box we added between these two items and save it. Okay, it looks better now. So let's start implementing the interstitial ad. So let's go up and let's create an interstitial ad. And make this nullable, and let's call it interstitial add, and let's create an integer, call it max or interstitial attempts is equal to 0, and I will show you in a while why we are creating this integer like the max attempts and interstitial attempts. So let's create a function for the interstitial. Under these, let's create void create interstitial add, and it's different than creating a banner ad. So here we would say interstitial add dot load, and inside the load we would specify an ad unit, and since we are using test add, so we will use interstitial add dot test add unit, and we have to specify a request. So we will specify the same request we used for the banner ad, and after the request we have to specify callback, and this callback takes interstitial add callback. It takes onAdd loaded inside it and onAdd failed to load. So the onAdd loaded takes an add, and inside here we would say this time interstitial, our local variable, is equal to this add, and then we would say interstitial attempts is equal to 0, and in the failed, this time it doesn't take an add and an error, it just takes the error. So we would say interstitial attempts, we would increase them, and we would print the error failed to load, and let's say error dot message and close it, and we have to say interstitial add is equal to null. And then after all these we have to make an if statement. Let's say if this interstitial attempts is equal or less than the max attempts what we will do, we will actually recall this function. Otherwise we wouldn't call it, so let's add a semicolon here and a semicolon. So actually this function will get called by the init state, but when we click on the button show interstitial add, we will create another function that handles this button click. So here we will create void show interstitial add, and inside here what we will do is first we need to check if this interstitial is not null. So if it's null, what we will do, we'll print something, let's say trying to show before loading, and then return. Otherwise, if it's not null, we definitely know that this interstitial add is not null, so we can force unwrap it. So we can say this interstitial add dot and full screen content callback is equal to full screen content callback. Inside it we have different methods. We have onDismissed, onAddFailed, onAddShowed. So in addShowed, this takes an add, so we can, for example, print add showed, and we can say this add. And we have onDismiss, so let's add it as well, onAddDismiss, and this takes add as well. So what we need to do here, we need to say add.dispose. Okay, before continuing, I noticed an error. We have to replace this with comma instead of semicolon, and we have to put brackets here, and we have to take this inside. Then after add.dispose, we would call create add again, and after the dismiss we would have on failed. So this takes an add and it takes an error. So inside it we would say add.dispose as well, and we can print failed to show the add and this add, and then we would call create interstitial add again. Okay, so and add a semicolon here. Now what we need to do, we need to say interstitial add and force unwrap it dot show, and after it we would say interstitial add is equal to null. Why we're setting it to null here? Because after we show it, we are creating a new instance of it in the dismiss function, and also if it's failed to show, we are creating a new instance of it, so definitely we have to set it to null. Now what we need to do, first we have to call this in the init state, and then we will go down to the button which is show interstitial add, and inside the onPress of it we will just have to say show interstitial add and rerun our application now to see how it appears. So hopefully it will run. Okay, the banner ads run, but let's wait a little bit for it to load, and then click on show interstitial add, and finally we're seeing the interstitial add. So last thing we have to do is we have to show the rewarded video ad. So let's implement the rewarded video ad. Let's go up and create an instance for it. Under the interstitial add, let's create rewarded ad and make this nullable as well and say rewarded ad. And then let's create another integer for rewarded ad attempt is equal to 0 as well. Now rewarded ad, and I think we have a D here. Okay, rewarded ad and interstitial are pretty much the same, so I will copy this function and this as well. So I will copy this function and paste them here, and instead of create interstitial I will type create rewarded. Okay, so instead of interstitial here again we will say rewarded ad, and we would change this as well. And here we would say rewarded ad load callback, and here we would say rewarded ad load callback, and just change a couple of things. Here we would say rewarded ad, and here say rewarded attempts. Okay, and change this as well, and change this as well, and change this as well, and change this as well. Okay, so instead also of creating interstitial here, we would say create rewarded ad, and that's it for the create method. So let's go to the show method, and here we would say rewarded, and check for the rewarded here instead of interstitial, rewarded ad, and also rewarded ad. Okay, so basically also this, change it to create rewarded ad, and this to create rewarded ad, and this rewarded ad. Okay, now this dot show is different from the previous dot show. Here we have different things. Here we have to specify the ad and the reward. So inside here, for example, we can say print reward video and say reward dot, we have amount and we have type, so let's paste them, reward dot type this time, type, and say rewarded ad is equal to null, and don't forget a semicolon here. Now what we need to do is to take this function and call it on the button show rewarded ad. So inside here we'll just paste it and put semicolon, and now rerun our application and hopefully it will work as well. So let's wait for it a little bit to load the ads. Okay, so let's clear this console and click on show interstitial, and it showed to us, and let's see if we can see the rewarded video ad. Let's click on show rewarded video ad. Let's go back to the console, trying to show before loading, and let's try it again, trying to show before loading. Let's try it one more time, show rewarded video, trying to show before reloading. Let me check if we called it in the init state, and we didn't. Create rewarded ad and rerun the application now, and hopefully it will appear this time. So let's wait a little bit to load the banner ad first, and then I think the interstitial ad would work. Okay, it does. And let's see if the rewarded video ad now works or not, and it does. One more thing guys, before we finish this video, after we finish implementing our ads, we don't want to publish the app with test ads. We use test ads to test if they are working or not. But after we finish implementing them and we want to publish the app, we have to go to admob, Google admob, and we have to create an account there. Then we will come to the apps and add a new app. Now you must select the platform if it's Android or iOS, then if it's listed in the app stores or no. Our app currently is not listed, so we continue. Then we provide the package name, app name. We can call it testing Flutter ads, and click add app. Now after we finish creating the application in admob, we have to add units. First, if we go here, as you can see, in rewarded video ad, in interstitial, in banner ads, we used to say in the ad unit here, rewarded video ad test ad unit ID. Now when we want to publish, we don't use that. We have to create a unit ID for it, and we have to specify the unit ID for this ad for all of the ads, not only the rewarded video ad. We have to specify all the unit ID for all the ads. So after we finish creating the application, we'll click on done. Then we would add an ad unit. So click on add unit, choose if it's banner or rewarded. You can choose whatever you want. For example, let's select a banner and enter a name, Flutter banner for example, and click on create ad unit. And this is the application ID. So you have to copy this ID with the C, definitely. And this ID, we have to change it in both iOS, in the info plist, and in the also in Android, in the manifest folder. So you go to the manifest folder, manifest file, and paste it here instead of the sample one. So after we do that, we have to create an ad unit for each and every one. So this is the banner ID. Now for the banner, I think it's here. So instead of using this test unit ID for the banner, we use our unit ID actually. And for also the static banner, we do the same here. Instead of using the test ID, we use this one. So you create another test unit for the interstitial and for the rewarded. Then you click done or create another, whatever you want. So this was all, and thank you guys for watching. And if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment down below.